Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be an update on all the foundations that I was trying or testing out during like my foundation collection and declutter. I was testing, I'm looking down here because all my foundations are down here. So I've only been able to test out about half of them, but I figured I might as well go ahead and give you guys an update on the ones that I've tried out and enjoyed, didn't enjoy. Honestly, I've probably only tried out like a third of them. So I have my little like notebook here. Every time I tried one, I wrote it down. I wrote down my my thoughts and opinions, and then at the end of the day, I wrote down like how it wore, or if there were like any notes that I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to test all these foundations out because I am going to Florida and I'm going to be passing along a lot of these products to my sisters if it worked out for me. If it's like expired products, I'm obviously throwing them away. But long story short, this is like part one of my foundation test and update on what I'm keeping and what I'm not keeping. So I'm going to be giving you mini reviews on some of these foundations. Okay, I'm just gonna go from the top of the list all the way down to the bottom of the list. There is no particular order with these in terms of powder or liquid, and then also it's a mix of drugstore and high-end foundations. So I'm gonna start off with the Milani foundation. This is the Conceal and Perfect Smooth Finish Cream to Powder Foundation. I'm in the shade 205 Light. This foundation just didn't work for me. So at first I put that it's okay, it applies okay, but it does catch on dry patches. The problem with this is that it rubs off so easily, and it rubs off when you are trying to like set or retouch this with a powder. I should start off this video by saying I have combo skin and I am very oily on my T-zone. So super oily on my T-zone, and I also have really bad like eczema right here and eczema patches on my cheeks. So there are like these areas where I have a kind of like dry patches, right? And this caught onto them, and then when I tried to set or retouch throughout the day, even setting it would just rub off. So this like rubbed off my nose super easily. Definitely not a product that is going to work for me. So I'm going to pass it along to my sisters. I've only worn this about 3 times. So I think it's still good and that I can pass it along to somebody, but this is a foundation that I'm going to be decluttering. Okay. Next is the Becca Light Shifter Dewy Tint Illuminator. And so I thought this was like a foundation or some type of tint with a little bit of like dewiness to this. But I feel like I even wrote this down, is that it's more of a luminous primer in my opinion. It does have a slight tint to it, more than the Becca primer, like the luminous primer. I can't remember if it's the backlight or the first light priming primer. You know, I can't remember which one is the dewy one and which one is the purple one, but that primer, I feel like it has a little bit more of a tint to it than that primer, but I still don't think that it is like has enough coverage, right? But this worked really well as a primer for my powder foundations. I have now worn this with 4 or 5 different powder foundations, and 2 of them I am including in this video. So I think that if you are a powder foundation wearer, that this would be a really nice one. And mine is in the shade Light Seeker 2.5, and right now it's heavily discounted. So if you are interested in trying this product, especially if you're a powder foundation wearer, pick it up. And I have oily skin and, like I said, dry skin, and it worked really well in both areas. So I highly recommend this one if you are, you know, interested in something like that. It gives you just a little bit of coverage with some luminosity, and it makes powder foundations look really skin-like. So that is a definite keep. All right, the next one is the Anastasia Luminous Foundation, and I'm in 210N, and I got this foundation. I'm trying to remember where I got this foundation. I think I got this foundation in a BoxyCharm, maybe. I don't think I picked up this foundation, but I really like this foundation. I didn't think I would. I normally don't I don't know. I was just hearing that this foundation was very, very full coverage, and I think it's like medium coverage, but I said that it has a skin-like finish with medium coverage. I didn't really write anything else because I feel like there was nothing really else to write. It didn't really super control my oils. It didn't wear away weirdly, so it wore away nicely unless I wrote something on here. But the most important part is that this has skin-like finish to me, and I put a keep on it, but I also indicated that it was like a keep, yeah, but it was a definite keep. So this was on my definite keep list. I don't really have super intense medium coverage to high coverage foundations, and I think this is going to be one of the ones that I gravitate towards if I really am having like a really bad day and I really need to cover up a lot of my redness. Okay, so next I have the Makeup Revolution London Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation. Mine is in the shade F6. I don't think I am going to keep this one because I said that it is definitely a drying foundation. It is only a foundation that I can wear in the summertime. I didn't put on here that it clung onto my dry patches, but I don't like the feeling of super drying foundations. And so because of that, I'm going to get rid of it because I could feel it kind of sucking the moisture out of my skin. And although I do have oily skin, I don't like to feel like my skin is dry. And this felt like my skin was dry. So I'm definitely going to be passing this one along. I feel like someone else could enjoy that foundation or maybe try the foundation, but for me, it was just too heavy of a foundation and too drying of a foundation for me. Okay, the L'Oreal Infallible Foundation in a Powder Foundation, the matte foundation that everybody has been raving about. Mine is in the shade True Beige. I did like this foundation. When I initially tried this, I tried it as like a powder, like a setting powder. And I tried it as a powder that I was going to wear on top of another foundation, like a tinted moisturizer that I maybe wanted a little extra coverage. And it didn't really work out that well. But it did work out really well as just a foundation, like a powder foundation for me. I always wear a very hydrating primer whenever I am using a powder foundation. Maybe I'll make a video on like my powder foundation routine because I do not use like any old primer. It has to be a hydrating primer, like the Too Faced coconut primer, or like the Smashbox primerizer, or like the Bobbi Brown, like the face base, or like the Pixie. There's like a Pixie primer that I use. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting like the name of it, but it's like a rose balm. I use a very, very hydrating primer before I go in with a powder foundation, and then and only then will a powder foundation look really good on my skin and I don't have to worry about those dry patches. And this really worked well with my super hydrating primers, and I even wore it with the Becca light shifter primer on top of like a moisturizing primer, and it wears really well. Did a really good job at controlling my oils. Didn't really wear off too badly. I always have to retouch my T-zone, so I don't really use that as like a test, right? I really like look to see how well it's wearing in this area, especially with my glasses and on my forehead, and I thought it wore really, really nicely, so this is definitely a keep. Tarte Rainforest of the Sea. Ooh, here it is. So I love this foundation. They have reformulated this. It used to say Rainforest of the Sea, but now it just says Sea. And this is their water foundation with broad spectrum SPF 15. You can only get this on the Tarte website. It used to be sold at Sephora. It's no longer sold at Sephora. And mine is in the shade Fairlight Sand. But I love this foundation. It looks like skin. It looks like skin. It looks like skin. It's so good. You just can't use it with like a sponge because the sponge is going to absorb all of it. It is like a really light foundation. So I like applying this with my fingers, or I like applying it with a brush and then kind of like pressing it into my skin with my fingers. I really, really like this foundation. Definitely going to keep it. This is a K that has been circled, so this is definitely a must keep foundation. Okay, let's talk about a foundation that I absolutely hated. This is the Lancome Skin Feels Good Hydrating Skin Tint with a Healthy Glow. This has hyaluronic acid with a whole bunch of other ingredients in it. It's oil free. This is the lightest shade and it is super dark. In fact, it's kind of orange. It's like it oxidized already in the bottle. And I've gone in store and looked at this foundation and that's the way it looks. Like, it's not like this tube came bad or that, you know, I've had this for so long that it went bad. No, I haven't had this very long at all. In fact, it says that it expires in 2022. It's just weird. So the consistency of it is a cream, but as you start to kind of apply it into the skin, it feels like it turns into water, which you would think feels really refreshing. And it does, except it just, I don't know, like it kind of breaks up and it gets patchy and it's really weird, right? So then you would think, okay, it's going to be a super hydrating foundation because it's kind of churned from this like cream to like almost a water on your face, right? But as it dries down, because it's patchy, it starts to then cling to your dry spots. So it was just a really fucking weird foundation. And I tried this so many times. I think I've tried this like 6-7 different times and it just doesn't work. And I wanted it to work because it's Lancome. I wanted it to work because I really like the idea of these like tinted moisturizers and CC creams. Like the Cosmetics CC cream is one of my all-time favorite foundations, right? These are my favorite type of foundations to wear. And it's just trash, guys. Okay. A Lancome foundation that I do like is this one here. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. It's the Tintidol. I just said I wasn't going to try to pronounce the name, and then I tried to pronounce it. This is in the shade 250 Bis W. I'm going to try to use this foundation up, so I'm actually thinking about taking this foundation with me to travel with because it expires in a few months. So it expires in November. So I really want to use this up. It does have SPF in it, so I'm probably going to take like a regular facial like SPF and then apply this on top. But this wears beautifully, you guys. I said beautiful foundation, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Looks like skin, wears really nicely. It does a really good job at controlling my oils. I'm so excited about this. So I'm definitely going to be taking that with me. I hadn't tried that foundation since I had purchased it, and I don't know why. It just got lost in my foundation collection, and I kind of wish I had tried it sooner and that the expiration isn't going to like go off. It just got lost. It got lost in my collection, and I wish I had tested it sooner because it's just a really pretty foundation. I would say like light to medium, like buildable coverage, right? Really, really nice foundation. All right. The MAC sticks, foundation sticks. I'm never going to buy another foundation stick again because I've tried so many foundation sticks and I have another foundation stick here to try, to talk about. I just don't like foundation sticks. I don't like the way they apply. They tug on the skin. They wear really weirdly. There's just something about these. So I said clung to dry patches. It was okay with the L'Oreal powder on top, but I would not wear this alone. So I did have to put the L'Oreal powder on top of it because there was some areas where it was patchy and I needed additional coverage, especially my cheeks. But what's the point in that? Like, what's the point in keeping... I have so many foundations, you guys. What's the point in keeping a foundation that just isn't working? And it isn't doing what I need it to do when I have some foundations that just do such a great job, right? I might as well keep the ones that are doing just a perfect job for me and not something that's just okay or that I kind of want to make work. And so I've tried these now twice and I didn't like them. So I'm just going to go ahead and declutter these from my collection and pass them on to somebody who would like a stick foundation or who it works better on them, because the problem that I really have with most of these foundations is when it clings to my dry patches. The oiliness I can get over because I retouch during the day anyways, but if it clings to my dry patches, that's a no-no for me. Okay, the Too Faced powder foundation. I have these two, and so I thought these were getting discontinued because I found these at a CCO, and then they were also on sale on the Ulta website, and so I picked up vanilla. I have a backup of vanilla right now, and I was thinking about getting a backup of shortbread, but it's still available. It's not sold out, and it's no longer discounted. But if I go to the CCO and I see that it's discounted at the CCO, because it was like 60% off at the CCO, I'm going to pick it up. So this is the multi-use complexion powder. I have the shade Vanilla here. And then I have the shade Shortbread. Shortbread is definitely like more of my shade. It doesn't look like it, but Shortbread is definitely more of my shade right now. I feel like it's coming off like really light on camera, but it's not. It's definitely like my skin tone right now. I don't know why it's coming off so bright on camera. I really like this powder foundation. I used to like, or I still like, the discontinued like Cocoa foundation. I still have like 2 of those that I'm hoarding. But I really like this powder foundation from Too Faced. I like powder foundations. I'm a powder foundation person. Yep, I said it looks like skin. Just really beautiful powder foundation. Good as a foundation, and it is also good for retouching. I don't have one of these in my bag right now for retouching because I am currently working through a Sephora foundation, powder foundation for retouching, but this is probably going to be the one that I throw in my bag for retouches because it not only has a nice mirror, but it also has that compartment below where I can put a sponge in it. And I have so many of these because I'm constantly using them and washing them or throwing a new sponge in there. So I like when a foundation has a compartment like that below. This is like the perfect retouch foundation for me. So definitely going to be keeping that foundation. Okay. Oh man, this foundation. The Too Faced Do You Full Coverage Fresh Glow Foundation. This is infused with juicy watermelon and fresh cucumber. I have mine in the shade Almond. This is a keep with a circle around it. So this is a definite keep, right? So I said, wow, looks just like skin. It wore all day, even when I went to the park. So there is a park right up the street from me. Me and my friend went with her 1-year-old son, and I took my husky with me. We walked around the trail in the park, and then we end at the end of the trail, or that kind of loops back around. There's like a kid's playground, and so we were running around with her 1-year-old kid. We were on like the playground. I was going up the playground, going down the slide. I took my husky, and I was like running around the park with my husky, and you know, we were outside for like a good like hour and a half, and this did not come off. It did not sweat off my face. I was like joking around. I had just done my makeup, and she was like, hey, you want to go to the park? I was like, well, I'm testing this foundation. I might as well test it to see how well it tests outside. It just surprised me. Like, I just immediately, like, I was like, any foundation that I take out there is just going to like get destroyed, right? It did such a good job. Like, it, apart from like my nose, which happens to like every foundation I wear, you guys, I was sweating. I was like hardcore sweating. I wore my workout clothes. I was like hardcore sweating. I did a little bit of like a half-mile run with my dog. I don't know why they're discontinuing this foundation. I want to pick up another one, but I also am like, you have so many foundations. I typically don't pick up backups of liquid foundations. I don't know. If I find another one in the shade Almond, I'll pick it up. Or if anyone's decluttering this in the shade Almond, let me know. I will definitely buy it up. Oh my God. Okay, keep with a capital K. All right. CoverGirl foundation. Oh my God. The CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk Nourishing Foundation. This has coconut milk and aloe extract. Mine is in the shade 530 Fair Light. This was fucking terrible. So it supposedly blurs imperfections, even out skin tone, sheer buildable coverage, instant and all day hydration. This was just terrible. It was matte, but it was extremely emollient. So it did have like a matte finish, but it was just too emollient where it just moved all over the place. I could not set this foundation to save my life. It was just a disaster. Like, it was just so bad. It was just rubbed off so easily. It was just so bad. It was just, oh, and it also like really sunk into my pores. I don't have bad pores, you guys, or I feel like I don't think I have bad pores. But this made me look like I had a pore problem. Like, it was just so bad. Getting rid of. Don't touch that foundation, you guys. Okay. The Clinique, even better, I still have it in the box. The Clinique Even Better Serum Foundation. This has SPF 25, and this is like the newer Clinique foundation. I have the Clinique foundation that comes in like the little like tubey thing. I really like that foundation. But I saw this at a CCO and I went ahead and picked it up. But I think I want to pick it up in a like warmer undertone because I picked it up in the neutral undertone. And one thing I notice about Clinique foundations is they tend to be a little bit more on the pink side. So with Clinique foundations, I do have to get like the yellow undertones because it's just a little too pink for me, the neutral ones. So I have the shade CN28. I really like this foundation. First of all, I like the little shape of the foundation. I think it's really cute little shape of the bottle here. What did I write? Light to medium coverage, love the finish, but be careful with powders to set. Oh yeah, that's right. I normally like apply my powder on top and then kind of buff in my powder to really set my foundation, but I had to be very careful with this because in certain areas, like, it kind of buffed away the foundation. So I feel like with this, I have to go in and kind of like press it into my skin to set this. Otherwise, it's just gonna rub away the foundation. And it could be that it is a serum foundation, and so it's not going to set like a traditional foundation, or it could be the SPF in here. I'm not sure which one. So you do want to be very, very careful when setting this with a powder. I think it's because it's a serum foundation. I think that's the reason why it tends to rub away when you're setting it. But I did write in here that it does last all day. So again, apart from my T-zone where I feel like I'm always having to touch up my T-zone, this is something that is going to last for a relatively long time. Even when I wore this on a pretty hot day, and it just did a really good job. Okay, I'll just go ahead and put these two like together. So I have the Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish Liquid Foundation. Mine is in the shade Porcelain. And then I have the stick foundation version of it, and I didn't like either one of these. So the stick foundation is the same reason I have issues with most stick foundations. It really clings to my dry patches, although it's a stick foundation, and this one is supposedly supposed to be kind of like hydrating, gliding on the skin. It just didn't work out for me. So I'm gonna get rid of that one, and it really didn't wear very well at all. This one, this very similar to the CoverGirl foundation. It had like a matte-like finish, but it moved around way too much. Like, it just rubbed off. And then on top of that, it also clung to my dry patches. And this was one that I thought was going to be very similar to like the Tarte water foundation because it has a very similar consistency. So I tried applying this with a brush. I tried applying this with a beauty blender. I tried applying this with my fingers. I tried applying it with like the Tarte blender thing that she has. It just doesn't work for me. And so I tried and I wanted to make it work because it is an expensive foundation. I did pick it up on sale, but it's still an expensive foundation. I'm just going to pass it along to someone because I have heard so many good things about this foundation that I think it's just going to work well with someone else's skin tone versus the CoverGirl one. I'm literally just tossing that one out because it's pure shit. So I think the Hourglass just doesn't work well with my skin type. All right, let's see the L'Oreal Skin Paradise Water Infused Tinted Moisturizer. I I picked this up recently because I went to Ulta and I was just kind of perusing and looking around to see if there was anything that I didn't need to buy, but I did need to buy. And this was one of them. So this is in the shade Fair 03. I will say that it has a little bit of like an orangey kind of undertone when I first like swatched it. There it is right there, right? So it looks like it's going to be a little bit on the orangey side, but then, you know, when I started to rub it in, I was like, oh God, it's going to be orangey. But then it like kind of does that like Clinique thing or the Lancome thing where it feels like it's like water. And then it just like blends into the skin. You just keep blending. And then it just blends into the skin like nothing. And it's like a moisturizer. It just feels so good on the skin. It does have that little bit of an SPF kind of smell to it, but it wore beautifully. This is what like a tinted moisturizer in my opinion should do. This feels like the Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer. This feels like some of the tinted moisturizers that I have in my, or like the water foundations that I have in my collection. It just does such a nice job, kind of light coverage, like the MAC Face and Body foundation. This is very, very similar to that. It's nice because it kind of starts off like a cream at first, and then it blends away into like a moisturizer, versus like the MAC Face and Body is just very liquidy to begin with. This is definitely like a cream, like it won't run down your hand or anything like that. But as you can see on my hands, that kind of glowy finish that it has, it's just so nice. So I will say that this didn't wear as nicely as like my other foundations, but I didn't mind that because I knew it was a tinted moisturizer, and I feel like this is something, even though I said it, I feel like this is something that I could wear out to the beach or out to the, you know, pool or out just like if we're going out for a walk or something like that, because I know I can reapply it and it's not going to be an issue. So I like this. If you wanted to wear it as a foundation, you could. I wore this underneath the the L'Oreal powder foundation and underneath the Too Faced powder foundation. I've worn this on several occasions and I really like it. So if you see this, definitely pick it up. And I haven't heard that many people talking about it. So I've just been on kind of like a tinted moisturizer, a good tinted moisturizer hunt. I've been trying all of them, you guys. I have one from Pure that I want to try. I have one from Laura Geller that I want to try. I have a few different ones that I want to try. All right, the last foundation here that I have to share with you guys is the one I'm wearing today. So I am wearing the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Hydrating Longwear Foundation in the shade 150. It does have a nice finish, but it has a little bit of like a tricky application. So I typically like to go in with just one layer of foundation. And if I need extra foundation or extra coverage, I should say, I will maybe go in with like a powder foundation just to give myself a little bit of extra coverage on my cheeks, right? I had to go in with 2 layers of this. It's very, very thin formula. Very thin formula. Almost as thin as like the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea foundation. I don't know. Like I said, it's a tricky application. I feel like when I first applied this, I didn't like it. But then I went in and just set this with my powder. I wore like a sheer... put like a sheer powder on top, and I just kind of let this sit for a minute. We'll kind of let like my natural oils come back. While I was finishing up, I put on like my mascara, I put on a little bit of my brow gel, I put on my my lipstick, which I normally don't do. I normally put on my foundation, I set it, and then I apply like my bronzer and my highlighter and all that stuff. But I was just like, let me just let this sit for a minute. So I did all that. Once my like oils kind of started, like once I kind of just let it sit for about 10-15 minutes as I did everything else, and then I went in with like my bronzer and my highlighter, it just looks like skin. I really like it, and I like like the glowiness of this foundation. It's just a very pretty foundation. I do not know how well it's going to wear because I've only been wearing this foundation, I would say now, for maybe about 4 hours, and it's doing pretty good. I've only like retouched my T-zone once, but everything else looks really good. Like, it hasn't sunken into my pores or anything like that. I think I am going to keep this foundation, but just because like initial application, like the first impression of this is that I wore it. All these other foundations, I have given a good 2 to 3 times of wearing it before actually deciding whether or not I'm going to keep it. But I just like the way that this has applied that I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm going to keep it. It looks good. So that's it. Those are all of the foundations that I am going to be keeping and getting rid of. So let's just recap really quickly the ones that I'm getting rid of. I'm getting rid of my 2 Hourglass foundations, the Vanish Stick and the Liquid Foundation. I'm getting rid of the Revolution Conceal and Define, the Lancome Skin Feels Good, the Milani Cream to Powder Foundation, the CoverGirl Clean Fresh Foundation, the MAC Stick Foundations. Those are the ones that I am getting rid of. So the ones that I am keeping so far are the Clinique Serum Foundation, the Too Faced Powder Foundation, and the L'Oreal Powder Foundation, my Anastasia Luminous and the Lancome foundation here, the Fenty Beauty, the hydrating one, the Too Faced Do You foundation, the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea water foundation, the L'Oreal Paradise Water Infused Tinted Moisturizer, and the Becca a light shifter. So these two I don't really consider foundations. One's a tinted moisturizer and the other one is like a primer. So I'm getting rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 foundations, and I'm keeping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 foundations if you don't count these two. Otherwise I would be getting rid of 7 or excuse me, 10. Whew, I can't math, you guys. So that's pretty good. It's about if you don't count these two, it's about a 50-50 that I'm getting rid of. So I did pretty good for this round of like foundations, like what I'm keeping and what I'm getting rid of. I like that. I like that. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see a part 2 of this, because like I said, I have only tested about 1/3 of my foundation collection of the ones that I was undecided about, like the ones that I had maybe only used once or twice or had never even tried before. So let me know if this is the type of video you would like to see a second or probably a 3rd part of it, and I will make sure that I do the 2nd and 3rd part for you guys. Okay. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'm currently posting 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.